The U.S. national team's next match will be pretty close to there at Red Bull Arena in Harrison, New Jersey on September 6th. The U.S. will play a friendly against South Korea. Then a few days later, it's Japan and Columbus. And we also found out the 2 October games. The U.S. will play Ecuador in Austin and Australia in Commerce City, Colorado. So we know the next 4 matches, all 4 teams have qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah, so the future schedule of the national team, the U.S. men's national team, is really going to be interesting. And as we've said before, it's going to be interesting for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is who is Pochettino going to call in for these matches. The other part of it, and we've talked about this for the last, I don't know how many years, is that the U.S. is not qualifying, and so they are all going to be friendly games. Playing Korea and Japan, good, solid teams, perennial types of World Cup appearance teams. So I'm good with that. There's a real chance that we would get a type of team like that in our group come next summer, or when the draw happens in December here. Ecuador on the rise. I think that's a good quality competitive team to test the U.S. team against. Australia, whatever, it's Australia, but are these elite teams? No. But these are teams that I think this U.S. team goes in and says, we are as good or better. And so from a Pochettino perspective, it's can you live up to being as good or better, being a favorite, if you will, which is going to happen at times going forward. So I'm excited about that. A reminder, the U.S. basically has, let's say, 8 to 10. They have 10 games, but the reality is that the final 2 games potentially that they could play in June, right before the World Cup, we all know those oftentimes are closed door. Oftentimes it's a mismatch of players. Nobody wants to get hurt. So the reality is, with the windows coming up over the next 6-7 months, it's going to be, well, actually 8 months. It's going to be about 8 games. And again, they are all friendlies. So we will probably make much more of them than they deserve to be made of, but it's all we got at this point.
I really like the Ecuador game. They have a lot of good players at the back. Pacho, Estupiñán, Hincapié, Moises Caicedo in the midfield, Kendry Paez, Ener Valencia, etc. So that will be a really good test. Pochettino facing South American opposition. I like the 2 September games, South Korea and Japan. I agree with you. Australia is the least sexy of the group, but even that is decent. Now, Sean Sullivan does inform me that South Korea match is the same day as Michigan, Oklahoma. And so we're going to tape Spaces right after. It's going to have to be quick or if we go long, I'm going to have one eye on the football game, even as we're still doing a pod.
Don't you worry, buddy. We'll get you out in plenty of time.
In terms of players that might be representing the U.S. in those games, a lot of news, transfers, and otherwise. We'll begin with PSV. They have started their preseason, and in the first preseason match, Serginho Dest came off injured, while Ricardo Pepi made his return from injury. A reminder, Malik Tillman no longer on this team. He has moved to Bayer Leverkusen.
So the Dest thing is concerning, obviously coming off of a summer where he was, asked to leave in that he wasn't where he needed to be from a physical perspective. And look, it's his body. I want it to heal faster, but it's not happening, and that he is compounding it with other injuries is not good. The outside or the right back position for the U.S. men's national team, if Serginho Dest is, 80%, it's still better than anything we have at this point. And so, I'm hoping that Serginho Dest figures it out going forward. The Pepi one's interesting because what he has done the last couple of years and who he, still coming off of an injury, but again, not being able to see him this summer. Does it hurt him? I don't know if it hurts him, especially since the best that could come along was Ajiman, and that's not gonna do it. And so I think Pepi really has an opportunity here, as long as he stays healthy, to come in these upcoming games and really kind of grab it with both hands. And Balogun will have a say if and when he gets back. I guess Josh Sargent will going forward, and Ajiman for that matter coming in. I think he'll still be called in, but good to see that Pepi's back.
I mentioned Tillman to Leverkusen. A reminder, in terms of notable deals that have either happened or are close to happening, you've got Malik Tillman going to Leverkusen, Johnny Cardoso to Atletico Madrid, Matt Turner to Lyon, who got their relegation overturned, Patrick Ajiman to Derby County, Damian Downs to Southampton, and then there are a slew of rumors as well including Timmy Weah being linked to Marseille. Remember, he played in Ligue 1 previously with PSG. He could be headed back there.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about Timmy Weah and how unique he is from a wing perspective. We know what Christian Pulisic does. We know what Diego Luna does and others out there. But, notwithstanding his red card a while, Timmy Weah on that wing, for me, has been the most consistently dangerous. And his pure speed, it's very, very different than a Christian Pulisic. I love having him out there. So I hope this move is a good thing for him. And, I hope that he comes in flying, I guess literally flying up and down that wing, if that's where he's ultimately going to feature when it comes to a U.S. team. Because there's been people that actually have suggested that maybe you put him up at that striker position and just try to get as many of the good players on the field as possible.
He might not be the only American leaving Juventus this summer. There are stories that Juve are looking to unload Weston McKennie. It's vague right now, so I want to wait and see if there's any real legs to this. But nevertheless, it's kind of made everybody chuckle to see that headline again because it seems to be an annual occurrence.
Yeah, and look, Weston McKennie is not a perfect player, but the dude always kind of figures out a way to show his value, regardless of the changes that happen on the field, off the field with coaches. And so he and his agent, I'm sure, are used to this. It's not necessarily a bad thing to be talked about as for the value of a player, but also we've been through this before. We've seen this movie before, and so we'll wait until something much more concrete happens.
Josh Sargent being linked to Burnley and Wolfsburg. Norwich are asking for £20 million. I'll just say Burnley is the exact move he should not make. They're a team just getting promoted back up to the Premier League from the Championship. They're probably going to have to fight to stay up. Josh Sargent should only move to the Premier League if it's a mid-table-ish team. Going to one of the bottom teams, I think, is a recipe for disaster. Wolfsburg, closer to mid-table in the Bundesliga, so that one might be at least worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a De Bruyne-esque type of thing that they could shine there. So you're saying that you think he has a better, and let's just talk about chances of being the striker and being on the national team. You think that he still has a better chance of shining if he continues on in the championship than going to the EPL and playing for a team that's going to struggle just to stay up?
Yeah, I've seen this movie before with Josh Sargent. He goes to a team where there's not a lot of service. They're on the back foot in most matches. It's going to be rough for him, and I think that's going to really hurt his chances to be on the roster.
This is where you need to talk. If you have national team aspirations, and some players do, some players, I guess, don't, but this is where a honest conversation has to happen with Mauricio Pochettino. Because if Poch says, you know what, I don't rate the championship, I don't think that you're getting any better than there, then you really got to consider the possibility of going, but to your point, where you're gonna struggle, you're gonna get very little service, very little of the ball, and it's gonna be a slog through. But that I would hope that Pochettino is honest with him, as I hope he's honest with all players. But you got to make that call, and you have to have that conversation.
And then the most interesting one of the bunch, Gio Reyna. It sounds like all the European options have dried up. The likes of Real Sociedad and AC Milan had been mentioned, but didn't really materialize. So now he is said to be strongly considering LAFC.
This is amazing and fascinating because, look, we've I don't know how many shows and how many hours over the last years we've spent talking about Gio Reyna, and it's because of his talent, undeniable talent. But talents can only get you so far. So it just, but keep in mind also, we've talked about in the past someone like Matt Turner, and you've mentioned at times, Mosse, where, hey, you got to be playing. And in particular, for this coach, Mauricio Pochettino has made it very, very clear that he doesn't care where you're playing, doesn't care how much money you have, doesn't care who you're married to or how famous you are. He just cares that you are playing soccer. And then he will evaluate you from there. And Gio Reyna has not played a whole lot of soccer. Same goes for Matt Turner. So it remains to be seen if he comes, I'm saying Gio comes back and is able to resurrect his career by using MLS. I'm hoping that that's what happens. I'm not sure, because if there have been problems, whether it's bad habits, a bad ethic, work ethic, or whatever it ends up being, those suddenly don't just get left when you land at LAX. And again, MLS has its own unique set of challenges. But who knows? Maybe this is at a different time in his life, because he's still very young, but maybe this is a Landon Donovan-esque type of move where he finds a place here in the United States and here with LAFC where he is comfortable and he is home. Keep in mind that we've been talking about Gio Reyna since he's been a teenager going overseas. And so who knows? Maybe he comes back and this is where he finds the best version of himself. It worked out for Landon Donovan. The dude's got a statue, all right? Who knows? If he can have even remotely the type of success that Landon Donovan had in coming back to Major League Soccer, then I think it would be a positive move. But the jury is out still when it comes to Gio Reyna. I hope it goes well.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.